Hello everybody, my name is Michael and welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we are going to be talking about these weird spheres that I'm sure you see all the time. For those of you who don't know, these are PBR textures. Many professionals in Blender preach PBR textures, and experts in the game industry use them all the time. But what exactly are these? What are PBR textures? Today I'm going to be teaching you exactly what they are, and how you can incorporate them into your workflow in Blender. So, PBR actually stands for physically based rendering, and this kind of rendering attempts to render images in a way that mimics the flow of light in real life, under all different lighting conditions. And these kind of textures are the best way to create photorealistic models in Blender, save for some exceptions. Most modern games out there use PBR textures since they are considered the best way to emulate real life. However, PBR textures are not as cut and dry as simple textures that you make from scratch in Blender. PBR textures consist of multiple 2D files, as you can see here. These are the color map or the albedo, the normal map, the roughness map, and sometimes the displacement map, metallic map, and ambient occlusion map. So, these different maps tell Blender how to interpret the texture differently and how to combine everything in order to create a comprehensive picture like you see in these spheres. So the color map or the albedo map is a texture that tells Blender what color to apply to the model. When connected to a normal node, the normal map will tell Blender to simulate bumps and ups and downs in the models. Think about it like the uneven surface of asphalt or cliff faces. Roughness is a measure of how dull or shiny a surface should be. Since objects in real life are not all shiny or all dull, the roughness map will tell Blender which part of the object should be shiny and which should be dull, and at what values. The displacement map or the height map tells Blender how much to displace the mesh, like jagged rocks. Some PBR textures do not have a displacement map. Metallic is a measure of how metal-like an object should look. Like roughness, objects in real life are not all metal or all non-metal. This map tells Blender which parts of the mesh should look like metal and which parts should look like non-metal. Finally, you have the ambient occlusion map, and the ambient occlusion map basically tells Blender what part of the mesh should be affected by ambient lighting and which part should not be affected by ambient lighting. So where can you get your hands on these textures? There are many websites you can get these textures for yourself. These include textures.com, AmbientCG, and Polyhaven. Starting with textures.com, which I've been showing you so far, they have a wide variety of different PBR textures, as well as non-PBR textures. However, textures.com works on a credit system, where free users have a set number of credits every month. Additionally, without paying, textures.com limits you to 1K resolution textures, which you can see here at 1024 by 1024. And if you want to subscribe to their services, it starts at about $14 a month. The next place you can get PBR textures is AmbientCG. AmbientCG is amazing for high resolution textures, coming in at all the way up to 8K in resolution. If your computer can handle that, AmbientCG is an amazing place for you to get high resolution PBR textures. They also have a good number of PBR textures to choose from, including wood, stone, brick, metal, ground, grass, and many, many more. Finally, the last place that I recommend you can get PBR textures from is Polyhaven. Polyhaven is another good website where I usually go when I don't find the texture that I need on AmbientCG. They also have resolutions all the way up to 8K in resolution, and they also have a wide variety of PBR textures just like AmbientCG. So now that you know where to get these from, let's actually put it into Blender and put it to good use. So let's take this Japanese stone wall texture in 4K and let's download it for our use in Blender. So let's hop straight into Blender to use the PBR textures we just downloaded. Let's highlight all of the default objects and delete them, and let's press Shift A and add in a UV sphere. And let's go into the modifiers tab and add in a subdivision surface modifier with 1 level and right click shade smooth. Let's press S to scale it up, and let's press Ctrl A and apply all transforms. So now we have the mesh that we're going to be applying our texture to. So let's drag a new window out and let's add in a shader editor. Click on the sphere and add a new texture, and let's call it Japanese stone wall. Let's see. And now we have our principled BSDF. Let's switch over to rendered view and let's maybe add in a light. Let's add in an area light so we can really see what we're doing with the texture here. And I'm actually going to add in a few more lights by duplicating it like that. Let's spin that around and let's do that. Okay, so now we have an adequately lighted sphere and we just need to add in the textures. So here is what you're going to do. Let's go back to where you downloaded those files earlier and let's move in all of these textures. Don't worry if some of your files are not in JPG or PNG and they're in EXR files like this, they still work. So let's move in the color, let's drag in the normal, and let's drag in the roughness. So in Blender, it's super simple what you need to do now. You just click this is the color, just drag it into base color, and as you can see, it pops up there. And for this, the normal, we can leave that for later, and for the roughness, let's drag it into the roughness. And now you have a texture, but it's still looking kind of flat, so we need to add in the normal map. And let's press Shift A, press S to search, and let's look for a normal map node. Let's connect that to the normal, and connect the color of the normal to the color of the normal map. And now, as you can see, there's a little bit of bump and ups and downs in our textures. The crevices look like they go in deep, and the stone looks like it's, kind of raised a little from the ground. You can control the strength of this using the strength controller here. I'm going to go for something like 1.2 because it makes it look a lot more rigid. And just like that, we have created a PBR texture here in Blender and applied it to our sphere. So that's exactly how you use PBR textures in Blender. I hope that you guys learned something from this week's video, and I hope you will start adding PBR textures into your realistic renders. Thank you everyone for tuning in this week, and it would be great if you hit that subscribe button down below because it really helps my channel grow. Now that you know how to upgrade your realistic renders, why don't you watch this video right here to learn how to level up your low poly ones?